The holidays can be exciting, but for many kids, the changes are overwhelming. Travel, loud gatherings, new routines, and unfamiliar people can push children into meltdown mode, especially when language shuts down under stress. In the last episode, I talked about some toys that are specifically helpful for building language. And in this episode, we'll talk about how to use those simple toys to prepare kids for upcoming changes, ways to help them calm during the holiday chaos, and how to create a sense of safety when words don't work. So if your child struggles with transitions, has language delays, or is simply young, this episode will help you understand why play communicates when language doesn't, and how to use toys to bring calm, connection, and confidence during these holidays. These strategies will help you at any holiday during the year. I'm glad you're here. Does your child have a speech-language delay and you really want them to talk? Do difficult behaviors derail home life and you know the frustration is a communication struggle? Does your child see a speech therapist and you wonder, what do they do and how can I help? If these or similar questions are in your mind, this podcast is for you. Hello, my name is Dinalynn Rosenbusch. I am a speech-language pathologist that has worked with children from birth to 21 for 3 decades. And in my classrooms, I see you wanting to connect with the heart of your child, but their speech and language skills create a barrier. So if you have a kiddo that has difficult behaviors, needs to expand their language or learn to say speech sounds, and maybe even receives speech therapy, stay tuned, because in this podcast, you will learn how to use your daily life as a tool to communication practice and how to do that practice. You will become confident knowing you are making the difference you want to make. And you will hear success stories of parents who have navigated these struggles already. We'll do this all while focusing on building deep, meaningful connection and confidence in your kiddo. So grab a cup of coffee along with a notebook and pen. It's time to speak in the way your child's brain understands. And that is the language of play. Welcome back to the language of play. As we begin, I'm going to read a review from Melanie Ann that came from Canada. She gave 5 stars and wrote expert help for parents. Dinalynn's wisdom about how children communicate is gold. Communication equals connection. Is your child struggling to communicate in a positive way? Highly recommend you to seek out Dinalynn's help. Thank you so much, Melanie Ann. Your reviews mean so much. And listeners, if you've not left a review, please do. I read all of the reviews and they are so encouraging. And of course, if you have a question, you can contact me either by email or by voicemail now. Both links are in the show notes, along with other valuable resources for you. So be sure to go to the show notes and explore. And if you have questions, many others do too. Be brave and voice the question for everyone. And now it is easy in the show notes to just leave a voice message off of one click. If these episodes are helpful for you, but you sometimes wonder, how do I get this to work with my child? That is an understandable question, and a question that many clients come to me with when I coach them. We look at how your child is communicating so that you are able to better understand what they mean, how they're responding to you, and what you can do next to create growth in the ways that you want to create growth. Sometimes it is because children have wrong sounds. Sometimes it is because they don't have social interaction skills that are the way they ought to be. And other times it's because vocabulary isn't coming. And sometimes kids are right on track, but parents just want to know, how do I expand their communication capabilities? Because they know that everything you want to teach them sits on their ability to understand and communicate back what they know. If you are unsure if coaching is for you, go to the show notes where you can get my email or email me directly at hello@thelanguageofplay.com, and we can schedule a time to talk about the situation you have with your kiddo. I will only accept clients that are a good fit, the people for whom I know that I can make a difference. And whether or not we are a good fit, you will go away from our time together having a clear understanding what your next steps are. Occasionally, I've sent people to occupational therapy or mental health, but most people that come to me have already determined that it's my skill set that they're looking for. So most of the time, you're spot on. Either way, we have a conversation to be absolutely sure before I take you on as a client. Now I want to thank Lightning Admin VA for sponsoring this episode. Nap time is precious, but if you're spending it answering emails or fixing tech issues, it's not really a break. Cindy at lightningadminva.com can help. She's a virtual assistant who takes care of the behind-the-scenes business tasks so you can use that time for the moments that really matter. Contact Cindy at lightningadminva.com. All right, let's get into this episode. Last week, we talked about toys that build language, and I heard from so many parents. It was so fun to have my inbox filled up with so many of you. Thank you, thank you. You made my week. So anyway, parents loved the ideas, and this begged the next question. How do I use these toys when my child is melting down, overwhelmed, or the holidays feel like too much? So that question is what we're going to address today in this episode. At any time of year, holidays and celebrations bring travel and schedule changes, new foods, loud environments, unfamiliar people, and other changes for our kids to deal with. And for many kids, especially those with language or speech delays, this overload causes communication to shut down. And the same thing would go for the very little ones that haven't even developed speech yet. So you're talking your 1-year-olds and below. The key ideas I'm going to want you to take away from today's episode is that when language doesn't work, we don't push harder with words. You switch tools. We don't use language to communicate language to a language-impaired child. You use non-language items to create understanding and emotional regulation first. Then you attach language when the brain is ready. I think this is important enough to repeat it, so I'm going to do that. In fact, I wrote this part out in a script so that I could repeat it exactly again for you. When language doesn't work, we don't push harder with words. You switch tools. We don't use language to communicate language to a language-impaired child. You use non-language items to create understanding and emotional regulation first. Then you attach language once the brain is ready. So I hope that made sense to you, and if it did not, hopefully by the end of this episode it will make complete sense. What we're going to do next is talk about 3 examples of using toys when language isn't enough. And again, this can just be a little one, or it can be your language and speech delayed child. So first, we're going to talk about how to prepare ahead of time with toys. And then we're going to talk about, well, how do you use the toys during the chaos, during that time that language is failing and you need to restore that regulation. And then we're going to talk about how we can create security when the child is having those big emotions. And then after that, we're going to talk about using toys to process after the event. If you learn these strategies, you will have a huge toolkit to navigate the holidays or celebrations or vacations or whatever you do that is outside the norm and requires your child to have transitions. So let's look at example 1 first. I'm calling this Practicing the Holiday Ahead of Time. And this particular strategy is how do you use dolls or figurines to practice what's going to happen? Now, this would look like you, parent or caregiver, sitting on the floor days before Christmas. I'm just going to use Christmas because I'm recording this at Christmas time, but please know this is true for whatever experience you are about to bring your child into at any time of year. So you're sitting on the floor days before your event, and you're going to act out what's coming from the child's perspective. So the child is going to watch their little doll, and I'm going to say doll, but if your child is into dinosaurs, you're going to do this with dinosaurs. If your child is into Buzz Lightyear, you will use Buzz Lightyear. You are going to let your child watch as you play, and the doll is going to leave the house. So maybe you have on the floor with you a doll house or house of some sort, and a car, if that's part of what you're going to do. And so then the doll maybe gets carried out by a mommy doll and gets put into the car. And then the doll rides in the car, and the doll has to wait. And the doll waits and waits to get out of the car because maybe it's a long car ride. And then maybe the doll goes into a different house that you create, maybe just with blankets and boxes or something. And when the doll goes into that house, it's going to be noisy and maybe have music in there. And maybe you have people chattering and talking, and you then show with other characters that there's lots of noise. And then maybe the little doll puts their hands over their ears and says it's noisy. And the doll goes then to eat at the table and says things, and of course you're the one talking. I've never seen this before. This is different food. And then maybe the doll starts feeling tired, and so she's rubbing her eyes, and you make the doll rub its eyes. And then you show the doll taking a nap. And then maybe the doll gets into the car and then drives across your living room floor again to the original house. Now, I made that up because that might be a situation, but of course your situation is going to be different. To the best of your ability, predict what your toddler, preschooler is going to be experiencing. And that is what they watch the toy experience. The toy is also going to do the things you want the child to do. If you want your child to have a tantrum, have the doll have a tantrum. Obviously, this isn't the case, but this is what we oftentimes predict is what our child is going to do, and then we have the doll do that. I am not saying to do that. I'm saying you're going to have the doll experience all of the things that your child is going to experience. Now, if you really believe your child is going to have that tantrum and that this practice might not help, have the doll experience getting over a tantrum and finding joy, finding delight in the situation. Because in real life, if your child is going to struggle, and you know this for sure, you can have the doll do it, but give your child a way out so that when your child is in the situation, they have a way out. If you want your child to eat the different foods, you have the doll acknowledge, this food is different. I don't know if I like it. I do like it. I eat it. Whatever it is that you want your child to experience and what your child will experience, such as, there's a long time in the car. We're waiting. I want to get out of the car. Not yet. I want to get out of the car. Not yet. Whatever it is your child's going to be experiencing, you're going to put that into your play with the doll. Okay, now, why does this work? It works because your child's brain processes the experience without the pressure to understand the language. When your child sees this experience over and over, and you're going to do it in repeated days before the actual event for your child, it gives their nervous system a chance to learn the pattern, and their nervous system starts to think, I've seen this before. And then when the real event happens, the child may still struggle, yes, but the panic is lower. The practice lowers their fear. Play makes that unknown feel safer. And sometimes for our kids, the fear simply is the feeling of the unknown that they're afraid of. So in summary, the toy doll, figurine, whatever it is, the toy experiences the story. That is whatever's going to happen. And your words are short and they're consistent. You will use minimal language, slow the pace, and repeat as many times as you can prior to going on your trip. Now, I hope you try this, and I hope you send me a message telling me how it worked. Now, let's look at the second example. And this is when you're in the situation and you are at Auntie Sue's house and language completely stops for your child. You have a preschooler in a loud family gathering. There's many people, many smells, a lot of noise, and your child becomes overwhelmed and can no longer answer questions. They can't explain what is wrong. They can't be reasoned with. And then what are you to do? They are overwhelmed. They're done. What you can do is bring a small toy car or a soft ball or something comforting into a quiet room. Don't ask questions. Give no lectures. And you roll the ball back and forth. You push the car slowly back and forth. You match the pace of your child. And within minutes, you will notice that your child's breathing starts to slow. It will slow to the pace of the ball rolling and the car going back and forth. Whichever one you choose is fine. And then your child's eye contact will return. And then words will come back. And the key takeaway here I want you to think about is that calm does not come from your explanations to your child. Their calm comes from regulation. And that ball going back and forth or the car going back and forth is what helps them calm their nervous system. And we call that regulation. Sometimes it's called emotional regulation. This works because it's not about teaching in the moment. It's about restoring that sense of safety to your child so language can return later. It is about helping them feel safe in their own body. Parents often ask me, why is it that language fails first? Here's what I want you to think of. Stress, and kids' stress is going to be different than ours. The stress pushes our kids into survival mode, and that makes our thinking and language parts of the brain go offline. If you ask your children questions or give them instructions when they are offline, it increases their stress. Play accesses regulation without requiring words. It's powerful. You're using the way a child's brain is wired to communicate with them. This is the raw evidence of behavior being communication. So summarized, stress shuts down the language centers of the brain. Regulation has to come before communication, and toys give the body a rhythm to follow, a sense of safety. We don't use language to calm a dysregulated child. We calm the body so that language can return. All right, let's look at example number 3. And this is how we create security during that chaos. And your key toys for this is going to be dolls and stuffed animals. In this situation, your child is also experiencing those big emotions. And the parent can give the doll to the child and let the child play with the toy. Now, this is not the snuggle time kind of play. This is the parent letting the toy show feelings that the child can't express. You may need to give your child some examples to show how the doll feels. This is one of those things you could do before the event because this can help you in the future for many events. So maybe the doll hides because the child feels like hiding. Maybe the child takes the doll and covers its ears, and it's the child's way of telling you it's too loud. Maybe the doll says no, and that means the child is trying to say no, but they don't get heard or they can't say no. Maybe the doll needs a hug. Maybe the doll rests. Remember, the child's behavior with the doll is helping you understand what the child is experiencing. So if you as a parent can follow your child's lead, this is where language is optional, but sparse, very sparse. So the words you might use if the doll covers its ears is too loud. And maybe if the doll lays down, you might say tired or just all done because the child just wants to hide. Maybe all done is the words that might be accessible for the child to understand. But again, you don't use many words. This works because children will often project their emotions onto their toys, and it allows expression without the pressure of needing to use a lot of words. The child feels seen and understood without being required to explain. Again, they don't need to draw up the language, but then they feel seen and understood, and when that happens, that calms their nervous system. The key idea here is that when a child can't tell us how they feel, they can show us through play. All right, now let's imagine you have come home from your event, and it's been great. So Christmas is done, and then we're going to take our kiddos and the figurines and the dolls, and we're going to play the event. We're going to repeat what happened. This means both the good parts and the difficult parts. Now, why would we do that? It's because it helps our children's nervous system finish the experience. It helps the brain integrate what happened instead of carrying it forward in their life as tension. You see, we often try to talk our children into being calm, but for many kids, especially those with language delays, play communicates when language can't. So now let's see what it would look like. And that would be that you get the toys out again, maybe the ones you used before you ever went, and you're going to replay the experience using the toys. Let the toy be mad, tired, overwhelmed, needing space, whatever it is. Let the toy hide and rest and say no. Follow your child's lead. And again, this helps our kids integrate that experience instead of storing it in their bodies. If they keep that stress in their bodies, it takes them a lot longer time to, well, the way I used to explain it when my kids were small was adjust to being home again after the holidays. The adjustment sometimes is that stress in their bodies that hasn't yet been relieved because they haven't been able to express what happened and process it. This is a way that you can help them integrate all of that. So now you have 4 powerful tools to help holiday times and celebrations and traveling, all of those events of life to go smoother. The first thing was to prepare ahead of time with your toys. The second one was how to use toys during that chaotic time when language is failing to help your child find calm. The third thing was how to bring security for your child when those emotions are big through using dolls and stuffed animals by letting those dolls and stuffed animals communicate for the child. And the fourth thing was how to use toys to process an event after the event. And the summary of the ideas to be learned would be this. Toys are not distractions. They are communication tools. When words don't work, play still does. The holidays don't have to be perfect. Your child doesn't need to perform. They need the safety, predictability, and connection. And remember that toys are not just entertainment. They truly are tools for communication. You can prepare your child, calm your child. Every time you get down on the floor and meet your child where they are, you're giving them exactly what their nervous system needs. Because when our children feel safe, then language has a place to land. We don't use language to communicate language to a language-impaired child. We use non-language tools to create understanding first. Once understanding and regulation are present, then language can attach naturally. Don't think of play as a distraction. Think of play as communication, particularly in changed environments or stressful situations. And always remember that calm comes before words, and safety comes before learning. And this doesn't mean that you put them in an unsafe place. It means that they internally don't feel safe. And that can simply come from fear of the unknown. Fear within their body, just from not knowing what's going on, can cause them to feel unsafe. So I hope that this has been helpful, and I would love to hear from any of you. When you try it, let me know how it goes. And remember, I am always cheering you on. Hey parents, I hope you found this episode helpful. If so, would you please take 30 seconds and share it with a friend who also lives or works with children? I would really appreciate it if you would leave a quick review for the show on Apple Podcasts. I read every review, and it lights me up to know that this show is making a difference. Then come join my Facebook community, where you'll meet other parents who are dedicated to helping their children grow too. You'll find the link in the show notes. Thank you for joining me. Now it's time to go. Let's pop our kiddos in the strollers and go look around outdoors and see what we have to talk about.